the trip to Kent today. Thank you to our lovely hosts for the attendance, for having us here today. Also, thanks to our EV committee for making all of the deliciousness over here. Leslie and I cut the food, so we take that. We will start off our program today with an introduction and a welcome by Dave Roller, our city manager. At your space, you have a map of where to go for lunch today, and Leslie took the time to tell you who's open at what time on Tuesdays, because we all know every business has a different set of rules. So you want to follow that as you're exploring that, but of course not while Dave's talking. So we'll go ahead and let Dave do an introduction, and then he'll pass the mic to Bridget from Bell Tower, and she'll share a little bit about the story here at Bell Tower. So this is Dave Roller, our city manager.
So Kent had all the right pieces. We have this wonderful river. We've got a legitimate old style downtown, and it's relatively contained. We've got this great university. We've got some great entrepreneurs. We thought the timing was all really good too. Like small businesses were replacing the malls, right? Like people were like, oh my God, if I go to another homogenized mall. So all those pieces were like just sitting there waiting, you know. And I told my wife when I came back, she's like, Kent where? Isn't there a song about Kent, Ohio? That was the extent of our knowledge of Kent, Ohio. And I'm like, no. It's got these great pieces. We just got to get them all together. And when I got here, I realized, oh, this is a job. I mean, this is not going to happen easily, right? And you all deal with this in your own community, so I'm not telling you you don't know. But keep in mind, if you rewind the clock 20 years ago, Kent was not what it is today. And I get that. I mean, I'm not from Kent, so I can't, say I grew up here. But I was here when it looked like it did, and I can pretty much guarantee you, we had sections in our downtown that were as bad as any place. There were plenty of people. I think the word was naysayers. Plenty of people that said, oh, good luck with that, buddy. You'll be fired in 3 years. There's no way you're going to pull this off. And I had the university president breathing down my neck saying, if you don't get that damn downtown together, I can't be the kind of university I want to be. I'm like, yeah, I hear you. That's why I came here. Well, all of this is turning into a very long explanation that when I was like, all right, how do I do this? Well, it didn't take long. I'm like, I had bumped into Main Street, I want to say in Virginia, somewhere I had one of my other cities, I had exposure to the Main Street organization. I'm like, that's what I need to do, because they've got the template. They've got the framework. They know how to do it. They know how to rally communities around themselves, which is exactly what Kent needed. And the other thing, we were talking about this a little bit, I have some really favorite cities that are a little wealthy, and they can kind of just throw money at things. And I jokingly talk to those managers and I give them grief in a friendly way. Like, there's plenty of room for the richer communities and the medium communities and the poorer communities. Ours was on the poor. We have a lot of poverty in Kent, a lot of low income. 1 out of 6 kids are on food, they are given food at the high school. It's like 1 out of 10 houses are at or below the poverty level. So in a way, the downtown, the shiny downtown, and the campus, which is a lot shinier than it used to be, is a little deceiving. You're like, well, Kent must be full of money. No, we ain't got no money. And you probably can relate to that too. And so what do you do when you ain't got no money? You find good partners. Because there ain't no way you're going to do it by yourself. And I said, Main Street was just checking all the boxes. And I was relaying, I'm not sure, I probably mentioned this to Heather before, because she always invites me back to these things because I'm a shameless promoter for Main Street. But I do that very self-serving. We're going to try again. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So it is very self-serving because I want to keep my job here and I want to be a part of a community revitalization. And so I started rallying bushes for the Main Street concept. And I had naysayers, and so maybe you've had some of this too. There are plenty of people that are like, oh, right, that's what we need. Another organization that we contribute money to that just, they say the chamber does that already. You don't need to do that. And, there are other types of organizations, and they're all great. I'm not, in any way against those organizations, but I said, no, Main Street's different. And it got to the point, literally, early in my career, where I privately said to some council members, you need to prove this. And I said, here's the thing, and I'm sort of kidding, sort of not. If it doesn't work, you can fire me. I said, if it's that important to me as your new city manager, we've got to have the Main Street. I can't do what you want me to do by myself. And it's gotta be from the ground up, it's gotta be the community working to improve the community, because if it's just some white knight that rides into town and saves the day and then leaves town, where does that leave the town, right? So this is all about cultivating local capacity to take care of itself for the next however many years. And even though I was jokingly saying I'm counting down to my retirement, that's nothing against Main Street. It's some of the other frustrations of working in public service these days. It's not the easiest stuff. But thankfully, there's organizations like Main Street that just carry the load, and we are so grateful. We've been able to really kind of redefine what Kent is all about. And Main Street, in my opinion, is very much a microcosm of what Kent is all about. And I don't think that's just pure coincidence. I mean, they're really efficient with their money. They roll up their sleeves and they get to work. They just don't dictate, make statements and don't do anything. They do the work. They are us. They are the community. So it's not the city says to legislate, community building. Yeah, that's not working. What works is when people feel invested, feel the pride, and that builds on itself. And I know it sounds so cliche, and you're probably like, I've read this 20 times, thanks buddy, next. But I'm gonna say it anyways, because it bears repeating. It works. Kent is kind of a poster child for how Main Street can transform a community. They didn't do it by themselves, but they were very much a critical part. And as I raised my hands, I wasn't fired, Main Street was a success, and you're sitting in a great, wonderful little facility that in many respects is one of the kind of things that happened when Main Street happened downtown. And this is now, we've expanded our definition of downtown because the Tiptons want to be considered part of downtown. And they are part of downtown, they're separated by a river, but I think partly why I share that is just because it shows you the contagion that Main Street can be. And it's not easy work. We still do pay them. I mean, Heather knows. We've had a few years where we've had to cut it a little bit, but as soon as I can afford it, I'm like, okay, we'll give you your money back. We'll keep you. For us, it's absolutely worth every penny. It's a small investment that pays for itself over time, every year. Yeah, I don't know how much, what else I could say. Leslie and Heather are very much a face of the community. Hopefully more in the face than I am, because much better faces. But I'm always thrilled to be asked to do this. Whether it's their annual evaluation, I'm happy to beat the drum there too. And I am kind of surprised. A couple of folks over there said, that's not true. Every city doesn't rally around Main Street the way Kent has. So if you have that in your community and you want someone to talk to, have them call me. I'm happy to be an advocate because I can give example after example. I can bore you to death, but I won't because you've got a big day. It's a sunny day. Even Main Street arranged for the sunshine. So, anyways, thank you. Welcome to Kent. I hope you have a great training. I hope to see more Main Streets. I have to say that, although I like ours, I don't want you competing against us, but that's okay. I'll support Ravenna and I'll support some of our sister cities, Manaway, because the old rising tide lifts all ships, and I can't be Manaway, Manaway can't be Kent. So, but stronger together, right? I sound like a politician, so I'll stop. I'm actually done. So, thank you, and have a great couple days in Kent. Bridget.
Three co-founders whose idea was to do this. Primarily, it was the head brewer, Jennifer Herman, and my husband Ryan, who decided that Kent needed a brewery and another brewery. When they first started talking, way back when, Bad Cat was the only place in town. North Water beat us to the punch for the first one. We were close, walkable to downtown. That's fine, the more the merrier. So they started, it was a very long process where they began talking with each other and figuring out what a common mission and vision might be. I eventually got on board because it was becoming clear to me it was not going to go away. So I decided I'm going to plug in involved and find something about the project to get excited about. That ultimately was the building for me. We purchased this building in August of 2020, which was a not great time to be buying a very large restaurant, community gathering place, but we figured out all of that with so much help. But my background is in interior design and architecture. I graduated from Kent State a few times, so I've adopted Kent as my hometown. I didn't grow up here, but after coming here and seeing what Kent was like, I decided that this was where we were going to be probably forever. But that is in large part due to the Kent JCs. Ryan and I have been volunteering with them for more than 10 years, and that's what made Kent home. So it's also a huge piece of what made us have even a shred of confidence in opening a business like this that requires constant daily community support. We felt connected enough, and we were volunteering a lot with Main Street events, but there were just so many names and faces that we knew through that organization that we felt comfortable, naively comfortable, in opening a business of this scale. So these are just some images. You're here, so you've already seen the building, but it was built in 1858. It was originally built as a church, and then in the interim, the Martin family owned it, and they ran it as they run an industrial laundry equipment business, and they use this as office space. This main room wasn't used really by them at all, and they took the building on right after it stopped being a church. So the public hadn't been in here for decades. It stopped being a church in 1950s. So nobody had really been in this space in a really long time. So part of what was exciting for us about this project was allowing people to be able to come back into what was originally a community space. So here's some of the historical images. Kent loves its history. And we're excited to have a building that is iconic and has been here for so long. It was a different world in 1858. And probably my favorite image is the one on the bottom left, which shows what it looked like as a church. It was oriented that way, and the doors in that photo are these doors over here that you can kind of not really see anymore. A little too much detail here, but it was built in 4 pieces. The most important piece was built in 1915, which is where now the brewery is located. So it was, if you think about economic vitality and what it takes to create a space like this, and to take a historic building and make it into a community asset, which we hope we've done, it was not easy. You're sitting where that hole was, and the tables that you are sitting at here in the middle, where it was the floor structure that we had to remove. The church was oriented this way, and the floor was sloped, and so it was a disaster. Tore it out, replaced it. But that's just one of the many hidden surprises that you would find in a building of this age. So this is the view that you saw as soon as you walked in, when it was under construction, as it was as a church, and then obviously how it is today. So it took a lot of people, and a lot of work, and a lot of vision and insistence and trying, and we, Ryan and I talk about, like, some days we just get up, get ready, and wait for some crisis to happen, and something's always new, something's always happening that was unexpected, and the construction process really trained us for that business ownership piece. The brewery, this is what it looked like when we took over the building, and if there's time or during the break, you're more than welcome to go back there. Jennifer is back there working all day. We have an incredible staff, and it's sad that none of them are here today, but they occasionally need a day off, so we couldn't do anything that we do here. This has been one of the most rewarding pieces of running this business, is managing the staff. So many of them have been here since day one, which we are deeply appreciative of. And you won't see any of our food and maybe not any of our beer today, but we do that too. We're a completely scratch kitchen. All the beer that we serve is made here in-house. And our cocktails are rising to the level of the beer and food. That was kind of the lagging element. We're definitely a beer first business. That's where the vision started. And then this is an important piece that I think connects to what you all might be interested in. We run a ton of private events here. We create creative opportunities. We host a lot of workshops. We reach out and partner with a lot of people, other local business owners, almost all women owned, and integrate what we do and what they do and provide them a space. We have a 9,000 square foot building. That is bigger than any restaurant really needs to be. So events like today and other creative workshops that we develop, we have something here for them. So we do a lot of those types of events, and then we partner with Main Street a ton. We've done almost all of the events that they run, we get involved in some way, and that's a huge piece of what gives this space a life of its own and the vibrancy. Like, we're a restaurant, what business do we have thinking we can just be a community place too? But partnering with Main Street and all these other workshops and things really changes the way that this business it really has a life of its own. Okay, so we have a patio, which you all probably saw on your way in. I have a couple of minutes if people have questions that I didn't cover. Well, I'll leave this around since I went a little bit fast. Some of you are probably more interested in history than others, but this is a photo book that includes a lot more of the behind the scenes of the construction process and the history of the building itself. It has a lot of dates that I frequently misquote. So these are in here. I'll leave this around if you're interested at some point to look through. But does anybody have questions about what we do? Yeah.
If someone wanted to just come here for lunch, a couple of people, and you are open for that?
Yeah, so we are open Wednesday through Sunday. So you're all here by pre-planning an organization. So we are open for lunch Friday through Sunday, and we're open just for dinner Wednesday through Sunday. Well, Wednesday, Thursdays, dinner only. So Friday, Saturday night. Can you guys hear me without it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got it up front. Yeah.
I'm just remembering I don't speak in front of groups often, so I told Heather that I was practicing in my car. So if at some point I start doing this, you'll know that I'm back in the car. As Heather said, I am chair of our Economic Vitality Committee. I'm also on the board of Main Street Kent. And I am a Kentite, unlike Dave. And I live less than a mile from the bell tower, so I love this community. So I'm really happy that you all came out today, and really fortunate to have you all here and experience Kent. So, my conversation with you is in regards to the Economic Vitality Committee. And I'd like to start off to explain what our committee's purpose is. The purpose of our committee is to drive foot traffic to the food, retail, and service establishments that are downtown Kent. We do that through a variety of active and passive participation programs. And I'll get into that in a little bit more detail later. We also try and cultivate collaboration between Main Street Kent and the businesses. And we work with smart sizes for our core committees. And I'd like to explain how that core committee works. So the core committee is comprised of 10 to 12 people. They are not required to come to every single meeting. The core members are myself, Ed, our co-chair, Heather, Leslie. We have a representative from Kent, Eric, back here in the corner. We have business developers from College Town Kent and Acorn Valley. We have a representative from Kent State. We have Kent Parks and Recs recently added onto our committee. And then in addition to that, we also have employees and business owners from the area. So with that mix, you can imagine we have a pretty diverse number of people around the table, all different views, and we get a really good idea of what our businesses needs. So what is the focus of our core group? The focus of the group is to determine our annual programming. We just did this for the first time more thoroughly in a different way in December and January this year. And we basically plotted out the entire year of what we wanted to do. We found leads and co-leads for those projects, which took 2 months to do. We had our difficulties trying to fill those roles, but what we're trying to do, the growth that we're hoping to get to, is if we have a lead and a co-lead in those roles, hopefully the co-lead will move into the lead role a year or two down the road. We're not overtaxing any one volunteer. Again, because everybody in our committees, on our boards, are all volunteers. So we also help those subcommittees because they work completely independent of our monthly core group. We might help them with tasks that they need to be completed, fill volunteer roles, brainstorm ideas, all of that happens during that time. And then finally, we'll review each of the projects and programs that we have throughout the year after they happen. We want to keep them fresh, so we're looking at their successes and what might need to be changed up so we can keep things new. And sometimes we're even making decisions, I think we don't do that again. Ed is actually going to talk about that more shortly. Okay, so finally about our committees, I wanted to talk to you about how the subcommittees work. We make sure, one, they know they're not on an island. They always have Heather and Leslie's support, so they will work with them. They actually develop the work plans, determine what tasks need to be completed, deadlines to get things done, what marketing materials might be done, volunteers to fill those roles, all of those things. That's what that core group is doing. Then if they have needs, they're gonna come back to myself or Heather or Leslie, and they're gonna say, hey, can we talk about this at the next meeting? I need some assistance. We're working collaboratively during that time. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about the types of programs we have available for our businesses. As I mentioned earlier, we have both active and passive participation opportunities. I'm going to talk to you about some of our active options. So what does active mean? When I'm saying active participation, these programs are going to involve a little bit of money, cost investment by the business, and it's going to involve more time by the business. But they're working in collaboration with us, and we have seen time and time again that the rewards have been proven beneficial. I have 4 examples to share with you. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can see that we have a significant number of programs. Both active and passive is probably, I don't know, 12, 13, somewhere in there. Let me start first with our chocolate and cookie walks. So these are ticketed events where participants make their rounds to all of the businesses, most times 30 or more businesses, and they actually collect a specialty chocolate or a cookie. So they're going around, they're making the rounds kind of like a scavenger hunt. This creates drive during slower times. And the reason that is our chocolate walk happens over Valentine's weekend. So it's February, it's cold, sometimes it's nice, but most of the time it's pretty cold. You see people all dressed up in their red and it's a fun day. And then the cookie walk, this was a new invention just this past year, and it was very successful. 200 people, actually I think it was 250 people, elected to do this, and it sold out within days. Basically, everybody received this collective tin, and they went around to each of the businesses, and they got a cookie from each of the businesses. So at the end, they had a full tin, great for the holidays, and it was held on a Sunday in December. So that's key, because obviously Sundays are usually typically slower for the businesses during that time. So what are we asking from the businesses? What is their active part? We want them to staff it. We want them to give away the item, the chocolate, the cookie. And we want them to decorate, make things fun for people that are coming through. And finally, we want them to promote it. And that's what we're asking of all of these events. So let's talk about Putt Around downtown. This is another really fun event. It's a putt-putt event. Each business creates their own putting green, and people, I've seen pictures, tons. They wear their Argyle sides, they break out their, golf gear, and they have a really fun day. We had a business last year, I'm pretty sure it was last year, a coffee shop that did a really fun putting green made with coffee bags and coffee beans, and it was like an obstacle course, so it was really fun. So it was a great way to sort of promote their putting green. And so again, we're asking them to promote it, take fun selfies, and then we also suggest that they provide an enticement to come back. So something to come back later that day, something to come back a month from now, whatever it might be. Okay, that brings me to the Ken Connections event. So what is Ken Connections? This is a university student welcome event. It's a partnership between Kent State and the businesses downtown. Kent State provides our businesses with a free table, which is great, because I don't have to worry about that. And the businesses have access to more than 5,000 new students to Kent. More than 5,000 new students. All they have to do is set up a table, come and staff it. I think it's a 3-hour event, if I remember correctly. So it's small time. They can give away an item. I've seen businesses do something as simple as giving away their business card or a menu. Some give away samples. Main Street gives away a really fun Frisbee, and it's just exposure to those students during that time, and they're all happy and, go lucky, but now they'll know exactly where all of these businesses are, because it is overwhelming when you're, a new student to the area. Business investment is time and the giveaway. Again, that's why we're calling it active. So the last event that I want to share with you is our Rainbow Weekend. This is a very special event. It is a 2-day Pride celebration event that is a collaboration. It's actually hosted by Kent State's LGBTQ Center in working with the businesses downtown. They feature artists. We host receptions for the artists. We have live entertainment. We do crafts, activities. There's education. There's themed food and beverage. And there's special merchandise for that weekend. So of all of the ones that I just listed here, this is probably the biggest time commitment from our businesses, because they're coordinating all their activities. They're setting up the live entertainment. They're determining what crafts are going to be in their business, all of those things. And they're promoting it. And they have to staff it over a 2-day weekend. So obviously, those two things, all those variables means more investment, but it has been hugely successful. So now I'm going to talk to you, well, I guess, can I take questions? Does anybody have any questions? I don't want to go too long because I don't want to run into him, but yes.
Just 2 quick questions. Does the city ever allow you to close streets?
Yes, yes. We have closed streets for our events, and actually, Ed has a perfect example of an event that we closed the streets for, and then over COVID, we decided to reinvent it, and we found out afterwards that closing the streets wasn't necessary.
Oh.
So he'll talk more more about that briefly.
And my other quick question, these are events, obviously. Do you also work in tandem with the promotions committee, or are these fully the economic vitality?
We're the promotions committee, and this young lady right here, Miss Leslie.
Does most of the promotion for us.
She does it. She's a rock star.
I'm sorry, I mean, like,
Like, the marketing aspect.
The
you mean?
marketing
Yeah.
aspects, Heather and Leslie, they set our social calendars, they get the material out there. And I mean, I'm sure anybody that's here from our committee and the people that's on our board, we try and promote it too. We share it, all of our volunteers share it, we build that audience.
I think the question, because I'm the same brain, so marketing and promotions is kind of a committee, but each of our big events has its own subcommittee. So EV is really running a bunch of programs and events and promotions in and of itself. It all kind of overlaps and stuff, but really the whole idea is that all the marketing and promotion aspect of everything we do is more of like a task that's associated with every single work plan and everything we do, and not really a committee in and of itself.
gotcha.
So this group is in charge of all the programs that you're hearing about today.
Okay,
And then help.
thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Sure.
Your event for the high school students,
Yeah.
here downtown, or is that at?
Excuse me, it's actually held at the Esplanade. Excuse me, if you're staying at the hotel, it's actually directly across the street, and it's an open space right there. Excuse me.
So it's kind of a nice space that really connects both the university and downtown as well, so it gives that connection.
Did I answer your question? Sorry about that, as I choked.
No, you're good. That was- that's what it is.
So I'm gonna segue into, oops, not ed program, passive participation. So what do we mean when we talk about passive participation? These events require little to no effort by the businesses. Main Street Kent, our committee, does all the work for the businesses. The only thing they have to do is opt in, say yes, and promote it. Take photos, engage, because every time they engage with us and share our posts, they have access to more than 27,000 followers. That's vital. So some examples of this are our MSK 5K. This actually just happened Saturday. So it's a great fun run, always has terrific swag, great t-shirts, wonderful beer glass. And in addition to that, each runner gets a $10 gift card that can be used at any of the businesses that opted in downtown, either that day or in the future. And then following the event, Main Street Kent writes a check for all of the gift cards that they redeemed. So it's simple. We want them to promote it, post pictures, that's it. They just need to opt in. Speaking of gift cards, we have a Ken card. This is a program through Yifty. If you're not familiar with that, you'll have to check it out or ask Leslie during her Q&A. But it's a wonderful program. We have 30 plus businesses right now that have signed up for it. There is no cost to sign up for it. It's used just like a credit card. And it's a great gift for new college students, people who have just moved into the area. Great employee incentive. We've had a number of organizations and big businesses downtown Kent that buy them for the Christmas holidays, and they're not restricted to just one place. It's 30 different stores or more, so it's a wonderful option. In February, these two ladies over here came up with a wonderful thing called Foodie February. This was specifically for our food businesses. It was a bingo card promotion. And again, all the businesses had to do was have a place to hand out the cards. Any purchase that was made in their store, they put a stamp on the card. If they get a bingo, those cards were submitted to Main Street Kent, and they get a prize. Opt in, promote it, that's it. Finally, I'd like to talk to you about Elf Hits Downtown. this is kind of our take on Elf on a Shelf. And each of the businesses who opt in elect to hide an elf within their establishment, make it a fun selfie opportunity. We have probably more than 20 businesses that participate in this. It's great for kids. And then they'll, through the selfies, they'll be entered into a drawing for prizes. And again, the business's buy-in is to opt in, hide the elf, hand out the cards, post pictures. That's it. So that is the EV committee in a nutshell. And we say EV because it has not rolled off the tongue as easily as we'd like it to. I'd like to hand things off to Ed here. He's gonna talk more about how we keep our programs striving, as well as how we try to promote and collaborate with our businesses and keep Main Street Kent strong.
All right, thank you, Sage. All right, good morning, everyone. So again, my name is Ed Butch. I also serve on the board of directors for Main Street Kent. I started off as a volunteer with our Wizardly World events, then got into the EV committee a couple of years ago, and then was asked to join the board, so very excited. And I'm really going to talk a little bit about kind of what we do post-programming, and then some of our collaborations and how we really look at collaborations with Main Street Kent as well. So, you know, we have all of those great programs that Sage that just talked about, and you saw up here on the screen. But of course, we always want to collect data afterwards as well. So after every single event that we do, we send out a short being the keyword, survey to all of our businesses that participated and really ask them just a few general questions. You know, what was the overall success for them? You know, did this increase transactions and foot traffic for them to their businesses? You know, did it create new customers for them? And probably most importantly, should we do it again? You know, was it successful for them that we should continue this program? And then after each one of those surveys go out, the committee, the subcommittee that actually helped do that program will then meet up and kind of go through that information and talk about what our businesses had said. And of course, taking into account what we felt the program and how it went as well. Because we want to make sure that it's doing well for Main Street, we want to make sure that it's doing well for our businesses as well. So we're always looking at those two things. And that's really then where the keep it or sweep it idea comes in, right? So should we keep the program or should we sweep it because it's not working for one or both of our entities then as well? And we know we've had, you know, programs that were not successful. I'm sure in your own communities you've had some of these as well. And we're not afraid to get rid of a program if it's not working. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we've learned is it's okay to scrap a lot of these things. So to give you a few examples, I'm going to kind of walk through. So Sage mentioned our Foodie February program that just started this year. So that came from a swept program of our Kent Restaurant Week that went kind of through some different iterations, again, during February, kind of a slow time for our businesses. And we just couldn't get it to work. You know, it wasn't working for the businesses, for our restaurants downtown, it wasn't working for us, you know, it wasn't working for the participants, they didn't necessarily always understand what was happening. So we were like, okay, it's time to get rid of this program. So we even attended if you live close. And so that's been a big event if you're a Harry Potter fan. Come on back to Kent in July. It's always a fun time. That's, like I said, where I got my start with Main Street. And, you know, prior to COVID, I mean, we closed down the entire downtown. So the main street, so this goes back to the street closure question that you had. You know, the main thoroughfares through downtown, you know, running all directions and everything like that. We brought in, you know, 80, 90 different vendors from outside of Kent to come down, food trucks, all kinds of different things. And overall, we had positive feedback from vendors, from our businesses and things like that. But what we kept getting kind of stuck on was are we really doing the best for our businesses? So then, of course, 2020 hits, everything changes. So we scaled it back, of course, majorly. We didn't have any sort of gathering events. We just had some kind of passive programming that participants could do and come down to town and find rocks and do different things for that. And then we really wanted to, when we were bringing the program back in 21, we really wanted to make sure we were putting the focus back on our businesses. So that was really the feedback, right? We're bringing in all these outside vendors, food vendors, everything like that, and they're taking away some of the business from our businesses as well. So we decided we were gonna go with less food, really no food vendors, less retail vendors, and those needed to be very specific to mostly be not what our current businesses are really offering. And we went from that huge closure to really only closing down one side street. And that's where those fewer vendors were then located. And we've seen great success. The nice thing is the money for Main Street has pretty much been the same, but we're really doing better for our business partners then as well. So I think that, it's not always just a definite let's do it, definite let's get rid of it. You can really think about how you can change some of those programs as well. And we're doing the same thing this year with the program. We're keeping it in that smaller footprint, and we're excited, and a lot more of our businesses are getting on board with doing a lot of their own programming. Bell Tower here had a big ball last year and everything like that. Their decorations were amazing. So we're hoping that our businesses will do a lot more for that as well. Roman papers. Thank you. All right, and then the other thing that I wanted to talk about was really sharing and collaboration efforts that we do and how we can get the word out and how we're getting our businesses to really help each other out during a lot of this as well. So our big thing and our big kind of motto to businesses is help us help you. That's our message to our business owners. Because we're here for them, right? We're here for for the community and everything like that, but we want to help them, but they need to help us help them. So we do have a large calendar of events on our website, and that is the most frequently visited page on our website as well. The Kent State Admissions Office actually advertises that events page to their incoming families, and they utilize that to see what options for restaurants and things like that are done in town while they're visiting as well. So that's huge. We ask our businesses to let us know, because if we don't know what's going on with them, we can't put it on the calendar, which Sage takes a big part of it in creating. And so just letting us know what's happening so we can get it on the calendar and we can put that stuff out there. Social media, of course, is huge, right? I'm sure everyone has their social media pages. We mostly use Facebook and Instagram. And we have over 27,000 followers between those two pages. And then, of course, most businesses have their own social media as well. But this is, again, a passive way, an easy way that we can get the word out. If they have a big event that's happening, we can even, share that event and everything on there for them. But it's really about, kind of seeing those different demographics that you're getting from those two main social sites. I'm sure many of you also have weekly e-blasts or weekly newsletters that you do. We have great success with that. We have over 5,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter with a 41% open rate, which is actually almost 10% above the national average across different industries, which is fantastic. And I think, when I looked at for that newsletter that Heather and Leslie put together, it's very simple, right? We do graphics, we do fun pictures, we do short descriptions, and we drive them to the website if they want more information. Our subscribers know that they're not getting all kinds of junk and other things like that in there that they don't necessarily want to read. They know, I'm going to learn about the events that are happening this week that I might want to attend as well. So I think keeping it short, keeping it simple is the big thing there as well. And then really about collaborations. The collaborations are a win-win for everyone involved, for all the businesses, for Main Street, for the community, for everyone. And there are multiple that have happened even without, Main Street or other community organizations' involvement, right? Our businesses just decided that they're going to help each other. Some examples, we have Daisy Pops, which is a cake pop place downtown, and Bentry Coffee that Penn Street is selling the Daisy Pops there at their store. Taproot is a local caterer. They've done a 5-course meal and beer pairing with Mad Cat Brewery. They also sell some of their food at Scribbles Coffee and Northwater Brewing, neither of which have a typical food menu, so they can provide that little bit of food at those restaurants and coffee shops as well. And then just this spring, actually, we had multiple brand new businesses that all paired together for Smells Like Spring events, where they ran some different sales and different opportunities and really did that cross promotion together as well. But we're of course always encouraging them to do more collaborations, and what Heather's going to talk about here in just a minute is where we really kind of got that, really hit that home with our Maximize Your Main Street event that we just had a couple of months ago. And you're really going to hear a little bit more about our large community collaborations here in just a little bit with the university, with Kent State University, with the Kent Historical Society, and of course with the city of Kent as well. So, if I can say anything else about it, I think the collaborations are huge. What we do is for our businesses, and I know that's what you all do as well. But I hope that from what Sage and I have talked about, we can have given you a few ideas and things like that you might be able to take back to your own communities as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Heather, who's going to talk a little bit more about our Maximize Your Main Streets events that we just had and have another one coming up. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, bro. I really needed that.
Have a question?
There's a question in here. It's way ahead.
So, the organization of Main Street, is it EBC and everything else falls underneath that? Like promotions, like design and other types of activities?
I didn't catch the first part. Is the organization
EBC, your Economic Vitality is kind of the major the major group, or do you have other committees besides that?
We have all the committees that we're supposed to according to our bosses in Heritage, Ohio. So it's the four committees. Our operations committee is our executive team. So that's our group that makes sure we're succession planning. We have the right people at the table. We're not going to fall short when somebody rotates off the board and then we have a hole. So there's a bunch of characteristics we got to make sure we have on our team all the time. Our design committee is focused on the aesthetics of our downtown. So we're talking graffiti removal, sending pictures to the city when there's a tree that looks like this, with my coworker standing next to the tree to say this tree needs some love. Planting flowers in 40 flower beds, hanging baskets, public art projects, and stuff like that. So operations, design, and then like I said earlier, that marketing and promotions component is, we have separate committees for Wizardly Weekend, for Art and Wine, for Oktoberfest. It's just too much for one group to do all of that. And we have people that don't want to come on a monthly basis to meet and talk about all the other things. They just want to help with this one thing and get out, and then they come back the next year to help us. So, and then the EV committee, it kind of feels like it's overlappish with marketing and events, but it's really, the idea is getting our people to work together and getting people in the doors of these businesses. That is the feedback we get from all of these promotions time and time again is, I never would have been to that place. I never would have gone to that place had I not gone to the chocolate walk or gone to Putt Around and been like, oh my God, I totally have to come back here because my mom's birthday's next week or whatever. Just like, it really opens people's eyes to what all is here. We're all creatures of habit. We all do the same thing and go to the same places all the time because we know we love and we don't want to stray from that. So I ramble.
And does EV do anything besides events?
So I call it events and promotions and programs. So Foodie February is a 30-day opportunity for people to get into these businesses. It's not an event. So hiding an elf in your business just gets people to come to your, during the 30 days that we're doing that program, go find it, take a picture of it, post your picture, enter the contest, win a $500 gift card. Like, one person's gonna win that. A lot of people are enticed by a little extra money, especially around the holidays.
But drawing new businesses to the downtown, is that part of your?
We have, we are connectors in that regard. So we have an economic development director know this guy who owns part of the block, Acorn Alley, College Town, Kent, or City. So we connect them with the 4 groups that are gonna be able to tell them if there is a vacancy. We have been fortunate in that we have really done well over getting the right businesses on the bottom floor. Before I was here 11 years ago, that wasn't the case. There was a Planned Parenthood on the bottom floor, like just not service and just businesses that should be on the second floor. So that has all evolved over time, and then we've been fortunate that the people that own those properties are trying to get the right people into the spots. Whether we like the business model or not, you know, is to be seen, but I think we're in a good path with that.
Thank you.
Sure.
They're on our committee, so those people are actually.
Right, the folks on our EV committee are the property owners and managers, so we're just all very connected and trying to connect the new business. Somebody says, hey, I want to open a business and can connect those, so they can explore, like, what are those rents like? Is that a good foot traffic area for me? Is that gonna be a good place for me? Yes?
I couldn't see very well here that, survey that you actually did, is that Google?
We do Google or SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey is annoying because they can't enter information without paying for it, so we try to do the Google a little bit more. Anybody else? Okay. How did that happen? I'm going the wrong way. No one was gonna tell me that until, I don't know, I'd go back there and pour myself a beer. Wow, okay, maximize your Main Street. So what is it? Our EV committee kept time and time again having conversations about, like, how do we get the businesses to actually participate in what we're doing? Like, the same businesses participate time and time again, but we have a handful of new businesses. How do we entice them? And how do we prove to these guys that we're not doing this because it's fun and we're doing it for you, we're doing it with you. So we thought it would be good to get everybody together, as many people that are willing to show up, and have conversations about that, show pictures, share stories about positive experiences from being involved with Main Street. So our EV committee came up with the program, Maximize Your Main Street, because it sounded a little nicer than help you help yourself. I don't remember what it was, but it was much more cumbersome when we got started. So we came up with a presentation and we hosted it at another brewery in town, and we provided baked goods and coffee just like today, with open seating and a very conversational format. So people could listen and share and kind of hear our story about the value of being a part of a Main Street community. So I'll kind of go through the presentation that we gave and then give some insights about some of those outcomes that came from this program. Doing this for my cat was much different. So I have a microphone and a clicker, and I'm not in my kitchen with my cat, so we're getting a little, huh? Or you're tread the car. I can't, I'm driving when I'm in that car. So Maximize Your Main Street, when people walked in, we had a slideshow going of all the things Main Street Kent does. Planting flowers, cleaning things up, putting up public art, chocolate, wine, art, food, all the things, all the activity. Because people see what we do, but they only see what's right in front of them. They may not notice or realize that we do all these other things. So we handed out a copy of our annual report at check-in. So as they found their seats and got comfortable and found a new friend, they could look over that information. And then we did a quick roundtable to see who all was in the room. And in sharing that annual review, we just talked a little bit about what each of those committees do, which I just did for Ron over there. So they really can get a good picture and then come up with ideas of how other ways they may be involved. They may want to help with cleaning up Kent or do a art project on their building. So just really helping open their eyes to what all we do. Then these two superstars share some information, kind of like what they did share with you today, our co-chairs of the EV committee. Starting with what it means to be a friend of Main Street. It's $150 to be a part of our organization, and in return for that, you're included in our advertising, you're featured as a business of the week, you're allowed to send stuff to us to put out in our e-blast, which 5,000 people are either opening or not, but a lot of them are. It's a very tiny investment to become a part of Main Street. We even have a 110% club, so now when we send out the reminders for people to send their money, we're like, or you could send us 10% more, and they almost always do, because they all really understand the value of what we're bringing to downtown. We won't go into this, but this is really important, I think, because I think our business owners are so overwhelmed and dealing with staffing and opening 7,000 emails a day, and the water heater blew up and all the things. Like, there are times when you can just say yes, and we're gonna do everything else. So you probably should say yes. Like, you're a restaurant and you didn't accept this 5K card, people are just walking in and giving it to you like cash, you're just totally missing the boat. So we really wanted to highlight the fact that you can be all in, you're gonna get out of it what you put in. So you can say yes and make a few $100 on a day that you weren't gonna get for that, or you could decorate and have your staff dress up and do all of that, and then you're gonna reap crazy benefits from that. Sharing statistics about the benefits of being involved is a game changer. So sending this information out to businesses in an email, you know it's gonna get ignored, but having their attention at the table and sharing real life stories about what people are actually getting out of being involved. I will share a few examples, and these are from some of those post-event surveys that we talked about. So, and I made the font big enough that I don't need my readers. Look at that, I'm learning. So for Rainbow Weekend, 82% of the responders reported higher sales compared to that weekend the year prior. So it was worth their while. The Chocolate Walk this past year, 71% rated it fantastic, 25% very good, and 60% had sales ranging from above average to the best day ever. So people are not just walking around collecting the chocolate that they get because they're a ticket holder, they're spending money. Yes, it's right before Valentine's Day, so that helps, but it's just another way to get people in the door and spend money. For Wizardly Weekend, those with increased sales saw increases from 30 to 75% on Wizardly Weekend. So this is the summertime, it's the end of July. Ed talked in detail about changing the format of that so that people were spending money in our businesses. So you can go get a magical latte at Ventry and it's got some like weird smoky stuff coming off of it, instead of some food truck in the middle of the road trying to take those dollars. So we really worked hard to make this fit for our community, and it's really evolved into a nice thing. We asked them, should we do this again? And last year, 93% said, please do. So we are. Putt Around Downtown, it's coming up soon, May 6th. Last year, 45% of our participants said they had above average to fantastic sales compared to another Saturday in April. And 27% of our participants were service organizations or service businesses, so they wouldn't have seen an uptick in sales anyway. So that 45% sounds lower than it is. And then lastly, the Cookie Walk, our first Sunday event ever, was the first Sunday in December. We had a sellout, and we had one retailer tell us that he had a 92% increase in transactions on that Sunday. So the first Sunday in December, it's holiday shopping time. People were coming in to get their free cookie, but he had 92% more transactions that day. So I don't know what that equated to as far as a sales increase, but that's huge. And then one of our eateries during the day said that she had 75% of the people eating had a cookie tin. So they served lunch and early dinners all day long, and they were cookie holders that were coming and spending that money. So we said, you're welcome. Some of those secrets to success. So they're not even secrets, they're really simple, but I think just helping our businesses to see how simple it really can be to participate is really helpful to them. So participate. When we say, do you want to do this? Say yes. And then figure it out later. We always give them at least 30 days to figure out what they're going to do and give us that information back so that we can promote it. So saying yes, planning ahead, and having the time, and making it a priority. Like, if you say yes, then you're forcing yourself to actually pull it together. You don't want to be the guy that, well, we went to the putt around and Bentry, sorry, Bentry, you're here. They didn't have their whole setup. What happened there? Nobody wants to look like that. So, planning ahead, making it a priority, and getting on theme. I will be the first to say it. This is kind of like my favorite thing. I have no interest in Harry Potter. Never have, never will, never read it, never watched it, and not going to. They call me a muggle, they call me all the names.
Blasphemy.
It doesn't, you don't have to like it, but you just have to get on board. Like, people are coming and throwing money at you, do it. Like, put a magical spin on your products. Renaming your existing products. Like, this is spicy, so make it, just change the names of the things, relabel stuff in your store. And people, it's like the buzzwords, hot buttons. People will still buy that stuff because they're here for the themed event, so get on board. And then doing an offer for a return visit, handing something to people that are coming in for one purpose, getting them back for another thing. If you know Mother's Day is coming up or something, just hand them something so that they want to come back. And then making a donation to a related cause. We saw a lot of this with our Rainbow Weekend. We had our popcorn shop did a rainbow quilt, and she did sold raffle tickets and donated the money to the LGBTQ+ emergency fund that they have at Kent State. So kids who come out to their families and their families say, see ya, don't want to know ya, they get this money to help them pay for their books and continue their education. So that's kind of a win-win right there. It makes everybody feel good about it. And then even some donated like a percentage of the proceeds from the weekend toward other charitable things that are related to the theme of the event. So there's a lot of ways to get involved. It doesn't take a ton of time and money if you don't want to, or you can go all in and you're gonna reap the benefits big time. Then we talk about the sharing with us. I know we've already heard about this. This is our Google Calendar. So if people send us a link to their Facebook event, there's 3 dots. I click that, add it to your events, Main Street events, and it's done. It shows up on this calendar. Most visited page on our website, by far, hundreds of thousands of page views per year on this page. So then we get to sell or use those 3 ad spaces on the side for some of our sponsors for our events. But sharing that information with us, reiterating that to them, like, we know it takes an extra step to send us your information, but if you do, you're getting our audience too. Did you have a quick question?
Yeah, well, that's something that we've been trying to be more collaborative on the calendar, because to put that kind of function on your website, and it's a lot of managing. So can you talk about, if that's through your website or through like a?
It is. It's I don't know if it's called a plugin. I'm looking over.
It's something we're exploring, but.
Yeah, we have our website is a WordPress website.
Okay.
And I believe it's a plugin that you just link your Google Calendar to it, so it just populates it. What's really fun is when I write lunch with mom in my calendar, and then it shows up on there. And someone was like, is there an event for moms?
It could be.
My personal stuff on the wrong calendar. Yeah, so that's fun.
Okay, because like I share through like social media platforms, and we do a weekly newsletter, but we just have, thankfully, so much going on all the time that like I could spend all my hours literally.
This is kind of false coming in hot here, trying to get competitive again.
No way, no way. Hey, I went to Cat, so I fully
Have a volunteer do it.
Have a volunteer do it. So this is one of Sage's other jobs. When
Wait, talk to you.
certain organizations send us their full list of events for the year, I just, Sage, whenever you have time to enter these, she is fantastic
Will they
about
send
that.
it to you like for the year?
Yes, there's a handful of like
Okay.
Standing Rock Cultural
Like
Arts.
this.
We have some music festivals that come 4 times a year. So once we get those dates, I shoot them over to her. Yeah, I mean, using your volunteers there. I mean, look at this room. This is not because of me and Leslie. I mean, we have all these people baking and helping us come up with all the things. I mean, Kelly shows up with doilies to put under the fruit salad. You can count on, you've got ask. That's like our big model this year. Like, you cannot believe how many guesses you get if you just ask the question. Like, it's daunting to try to keep on top of this. So this isn't something that you should be doing as the director of your program all day, every day. I know you get stuff doing it, but you can find find somebody that's willing, that's great.
Can I ask one more question? I'm sorry.
Only one.
So you also have large festivals, and it was kind of touched on about like not closing the street so much and everything. We also have like the Heritage Festivals that bring like 30,000 people within 3 days. Great for a small area of our downtown, and you're familiar with like our pavilion area. We're linear, we're very grid, but like on a Kent weekend or like a Wizard weekend that you guys have, you have opportunities for people to get really playful that brings them into the business. But what we're hearing, since we are very linear and our festivals are more on like one side or more central, we're noticing that a lot of businesses actually do worse on those days because of the food trucks, because of the vendors, because, you know what I mean? They're not like walking around.
That balance is very, very, very tricky.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was
grid or
wondering, yeah.
sprawl, whatever the layout of your downtown is, yeah. I mean, you're driving, like we do our Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few events where it's really all about Main Street. We have to raise money so that we can keep 2 people working and keep an office running and have a marketing budget and do all those things. So there are a couple days during the year when, sorry, it's not the best for you.
Yeah.
We really want you to try to find a way to embrace it and benefit from it, but sometimes it has to be about us, otherwise we're not here. And I think you heard from our city manager, they don't want us to not be here doing all the work we do, so.
Thank you.
Sure. Angela.
So, on that calendar of events, are those true events, or are stores saying, I'm offering 20% off?
No sales.
Okay.
No, we do like if they have they're doing a cookie decorating class here, or plant baking, or Plant Parenthood 101, how cute is that, at Forest Plant Market. There's all kinds of interesting things. Our library has really robust programming for kids and stuff, so yeah, it has to be it can be ticketed too. We'll just put the link on there to buy your ticket and send it free. But yeah, it has to be like relevant. Okay. Yeah, people look at
If
me
the
here.
community wants to attend or do, that's a recommendation.
And again, the whole.
Wait.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so again, reiterating the idea to the businesses that we're doing the elf hunt, the elf hits downtown Kent, and we have 27,000 people paying attention to us, but if all 25 of you, we're talking hundreds of thousands of people are going to be paying attention to what we're doing. So when you're marketing what we're doing, we're all helping market the entire downtown, and that's the whole idea. We even send copies with like ideas of things to post and go in and take pictures and really try to encourage that. Again, this is back to us at Maximize Your Main Street, telling them, when you're working together, tell us, and we'll tell our friends too. And then we open up the floor for testimonials. So we have some businesses that are newer to the game and some that are kind of veteran to the downtown. Just sharing some of those details about statistics about the benefits of being an active participant in the things that we do. So I asked a few people in advance so that there wasn't quiet awkwardness, just like, can you share some of your stories? And then it just opened up the conversation. And then some of the newer people were asking, oh, what did you do last year? Oh, that's coming up again this year. So it was really a very casual, non-forced, natural evolution of a conversation. And we didn't even have beer. We had coffee and pastry. So that leads directly into the conversation about what else is going on this year in Kent. So we went into the list of, here's what's coming up. So, I mean, it's just, there's so much opportunity. And again, you can do as little or as much as you want, but just don't pretend it's not happening because you're missing the boat. And then a final slide of just how to contact us as if we're not right there and you don't see us anyway. And then, of course, the follow-up survey to that. And we send it out, I try to send it a day after, or 2 at the most, so that it's still really fresh. We sent out a survey to our participants. I think we had 25 people come to the last one. 85% gave it 5 stars, 15% gave it 4 stars. What they valued most about the session was learning about the stats and the impact of participating in Main Street activities, opportunities to get involved and to work together with one another, and meeting new business owners. We have a handful of new retailers that have opened, which is fantastic. And they actually started a little Facebook group that we don't have anything to do with, which is kind of fantastic. Like just sharing ideas and like, hey, this is coming up, and just kind of like develop their own little network, which I think is great. And then we also realized that a lot of people missed out on this that are working at that time or they were sick that day. So we're doing the Maximize Your Main Street PM edition on Monday the 1st at Northwater Brewing, and we'll have Chex Mix and beer for that one. So we invited the people that came to the last one because they were excited to meet new people. So I think we have about a dozen people signed up for that, but it's really just about like getting people to see, like with your peers, your business peers. We're doing this for you guys. Like figure out a way to make it work for yourselves. Yeah.
So do you do this every year? How often do you do this?
This is fresh. So
This is new.
yeah,
Okay.
our EV committee came up with it this year, and it was really just kind of we're banging our heads against the wall. Like how do we get them more involved? So we do the PUD event. And we send out like, hey, who wants to participate? Let us know by this time. And last year we were like, oh, we have 15 holes, so that's not cute because we're trying for 18. This year we did that Maximize, and then we sent out the who wants to participate. Oh, now we have 25 holes. Oh, okay, well, we want you all to participate, so we're still gonna do it. You get bonus points if you get to every hole that day.
Do you anticipate it being a yearly?
Yes.
Okay.
The response from that was, would you come to this again, and should we do it again, and how often, kind of thing. And it was a once a year response. We're just doing this follow-up one because we know a handful of people missed out that wish they had been there. Yeah, it's just tough. Like, is it a morning thing? So this is a Monday afternoon thing at 3:30. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It should be good. Yes.
When you're getting feedback, you're getting feedback from your businesses that are participating, but are you also getting feedback from the participants of the event as well?
Of like outside vendors.
No, the people who have attended the event. So your feedback is-
Oh, no. We haven't. Gosh, that's a can of worms. I mean, because they certainly do share their opinions on social media, absolutely. And there's usually 10 glorious 5-star reviews and then somebody who you're just never gonna make happy. So that's their forum, and I try to remain silent so that I don't say something, you know, just let them let it out. So no, we haven't surveyed our attendees, but that might be a good idea. Does anyone have any other questions? Yes?
I'd like to hear about your board makeup, the backgrounds of your board members.
Sure. So we have, our board is actually, I think we're like 10 right now. So we feel strongly that our board should be on the smaller side. So I think 9 to 13 is our sweet spot. When I started at Main Street 11 years ago, we had a lot of long timers and there wasn't a rotation that was being enforced. So we are completely insistent upon that. So I believe it's 50% of the board is supposed to be a downtown business or property owner. However, I think we're in the midst of talking about changing that a little bit, at least to like a downtown stakeholder, because necessarily the owner isn't the person that can make it to and have the time to be active. We have no interest in people filling seats. Like this is not about the chair, it's about people that bring something to the table and help us do what we're trying to do. So people that live here, people, we always have our economic development director or intern right now from the city on our board because that's a really good connection. We have a contract with the city, as Dave shared early on. It's, I mean, it's a third of our funding for the year, and it's important to them that we succeed in keeping that door open all the time. So business owners, downtown stakeholders, people that are connected. One of our board members has like been on Governors and coming back, owns several businesses, and just can't get enough. Like people like to be a part of it, but we just have to enforce that rotation. Like you can be on the board of Governors, and if you want to come back, you can. But it's really we've always had a really good mix of people. Yeah.
So in your Maximizing Main Street, you talked about the fact that there is a membership to the organization. Is every business invited to participate in every event regardless of whether they're a supporter of the permit?
Yes. Tricky. It's tricky,
It is
right?
tricky.
So you see that they, like, do they understand that once they start like a new business, how am I gonna not let somebody participate in what we're doing when they don't have $150 to rub together and send our way? Let's prove the value of what we're doing for them, and then hopefully they'll get on board with us. So we have, but we do feature them, our friends are featured in different ways. So if we're doing an advertisement that has restaurants in it, you can sure as shoot, those are gonna be people that are paying money to be a part of our organization. Same with our e-blast inclusion, our featured businesses of the week and things like that. Those are people that are financially supporting us.
But there will always be those businesses who are like, you could work for me and I am never gonna give you a dime.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't find that they really tend to want us to participate in stuff, because if they're not drinking the Kool-Aid, they're not, you know, they don't believe what we're doing is, they're fine without us. Okay, be fine without us, we're gonna do all these glorious things around you, and you can think it's just you that's fantastic, and maybe we'll help a little bit, you know. Good on questions? Excellent, timing is our friend here, it is 11:03. Are all of our people here that are? We're gonna take a 5-minute break, because Matt Weaverwood said.
5 holes this year, so I'm excited to represent Kent State University. I've been with the university for 21 years. I actually lived in Kent before what you'll see if you go downtown for lunch, when it was not what it is today. And in the height of a pandemic, as one does, the president and the provost were like, hey, we want you to create a community engagement town and gown role when we're all sequestered. How do you do that, right? And I'm like, okay, sure. And 3 years later, I have to say it's been the highlight of my career to really be in this role. Kent State and the city of Kent are deeply intertwined. How many of you, any other college town folks represented in the room? Where are you from? Yes, College of Worcester. Ashland? Yes, yes, purple. Yes, purple gold, yes. Anyone else? Yes.
You are.
Yep.
Miami University, yes. Yes. Anyone else that I missed? Yes. Great. So those of you from college towns know that you're at the hip. And when you're not working in sync, it can cause a lot of stress and contention. But what I want to share with you today, and I think what Heather asked, is when you do work in sync, some really special things can happen. And I actually think there are some unintended good things that came out of the pandemic. The pandemic is awful, right? But it actually also focused us to think deeply about our small businesses in ways maybe we didn't think about them before. And one of the things that I'm most proud of our partnership is something that was a consequence of the pandemic is we as a large university have a president and a provost who deeply value that relationship and recognizing that the strength of the university is tied to the strength of the city of Kent. And without that, you know, we really could sing together. So early on in 2020, we were talking about, in the pandemic that summer, what are ways we can support and be a lifeline to the downtown, to the small businesses. And that's where one of our proudest partnerships came about. It's called Blue, Gold, and Grateful. Each year we have done some sort of employee appreciation program. In the past, pre-pandemic, we get in a big ballroom, there's a buffet. Our employees at that time were around 7,500. We shrunk quite a bit after the pandemic, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But it's kind of a show up, and then we would do one at different shifts, and you know, have some free food, have, you know, just kind of a t-shirt, all that good stuff. Well, it's a pandemic, right? And the last thing you can do is show up in a big ballroom, and at this point, we're pretty much remote. So what we ended up building was this program where each employee was given $20. The money that would have been spent on, you know, the tchotchkes, the t-shirts, the food, went to individual employees. And we partnered with Main Street Kent to say, how can we work something out where where the businesses connected to Main Street Kent become the beneficiaries of this, you know, gift card. Now at the time, we didn't have a Kent card yet, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Did you talk about the Kent card already? Yeah. So we didn't have that yet, so we actually printed and mailed all these like lovely but very tedious gift cards so that when folks showed up to businesses, they would turn it in. It was a very laborious process, as you can imagine. But what it did is generate, I think that first year, about $26,000 into a very much struggling pandemic impacted community. So we felt really good about it. So then we start to open back up, if you will, and I'm like, this is going to be something we can continue, and it was. And we so far have done it for 3 years, and through this program have invested over $100,000 into our downtown businesses. It's just how do we think creatively? And not only that, other, I think Davie, the city, other businesses were inspired to do the same. It's great to do dinner or a banquet and all kind of the more traditional employee appreciation things, but what an idea to take this back to your businesses in your community, if you have an education institution, and say, hey, whether it's 5, whether it's 10, the city actually went to $25 to say, we value you and we value our businesses, so head on downtown and get something of your choosing. And it's restaurants, actually our biggest yield was used at restaurants, and then the Little Red Rabbit toy shop. And each year the redemption rate has gone up. The last 2 years we were able to coordinate this through the Kent card, which has made it much more efficient and tracking and all sorts of good stuff. And the Kent card has actually opened up other doors for us. So our admissions recognizes our enrollment team that when people come to visit the university, we want to get them downtown because they fall in love. And it helps us recruit students, but it also helps the businesses. So this past spring, we piloted a program with that Kent card that when we had what are called Future Flash Days and these events where students and families come to see if they're going to choose Kent State, our admissions gave them a $10 card. And that pilot yielded an additional almost $4,000 into the city businesses this past semester, and we're going to look to grow that. So that's one of our big programs. I just want to pause before I talk about a few other things real quick. Questions on that program? Yeah.
Was that set up through the Gifty?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we, the university actually contracted directly with Gifty using the mechanism of the Kent card, which has made it cleaner. So we paid Gifty directly. The first year we did it all through Main Street Kent, and I think poor Leslie and Heather, I think, put in an additional week of work just managing that process. So the Gifty is a good way to go. And they work really well with all sorts of organizations, whether you're public, private, et cetera, to make it accessible. Anyone else? Yeah.
Just a suggestion, I have 2 kids that did and graduated from Kent.
Oh, yay, go to lunch.
Yes. But for people, especially if you're not from around here, and you didn't get to know Kent, downtown Kent before your kids go, just that easy connection for parents.
Yes.
Insomnia Cookies is here, here's how they work, here's how they deliver, but just, you know, where you can get other college gear, just to let parents know from, you know, who are sitting at home, thinking of their kids as online access, to be able to kind of connect their kids to the downtown, either with gifting them things, or say, go visit this place, or, you know, if they don't get a chance to do the touring.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think would be well received because we just started a big, if you show up to one of our in-person events, there's a huge downtown display. It's the best way I can take it. It's like bigger than me. And there's a QR code. So in university towns, this could be something you pitch to your colleges that when folks come for tours, it's right there. They can QR code it, it sends it, I think, to Main Street Kent's website, actually. I need to double check that. But it makes that more seamless. I like your idea about adding the online piece to it too. So, in addition, a few other things that I want to mention. We partnered, again, pandemic forces us to think differently, and our president was like, how do we get students outside safely? And so, hence, this idea of an ice skating rink came about, and with this beautiful name, Kent Skates. Ha ha ha, you know, we like our little ones. And this really has become, I think, one of the coolest projects I've ever worked on in my life. It's a partnership with the university, the city of Kent, Main Street Kent, the Chamber, Commerce, Kent Area Chamber of Commerce, and the hotel, some of you may be staying in. And we just concluded year 2, and on Erie Street, which is right next to the hotel, and you'll see it if you go out and about, we put a little skating rink in. And the goal was to make it free and to get students out, to get community members out, and do something to invest in the community. And I think it's one of the expressions of true community-based partnership that I've ever seen. It's free, and our goal is to keep it free. And students have used it so much so that we're looking to expand on it. And Main Street has tracked quite a bit of foot traffic and web traffic. And over the past 2 years, this little rink has brought in over 45,000 visitors to the downtown area during months, which are typically our off months, where it's cold and not a lot of things are happening. And because our Blue Gold and Grateful program dovetails, so it comes out around Thanksgiving, we encourage folks to use it anytime between Thanksgiving and the end of January. It's driving business during times that typically are slower for our downtown community. So that's another really awesome partnership we're proud of. Go ahead.
How did you track how many people used it?
So honestly, it's very rudimentary right now. We're looking to do better, but waivers. So that number is just people who skate. So we firmly believe it's much higher because myself, I'm not getting on a pair of ice skates, but I brought my nieces there, right? So I'm not counted in that number. So right now, it's been through the use of waivers. There's legal pieces involved, as you can imagine. But the waivers have been how we track. And then we've done also tracking through Main Street Kent's website, our own website. There was an uptick in reservations for the hotel. They built some packages around it. And I'll be honest, we're in here too, just like Heather was mentioning about that networking at North Water that they're doing. We're learning a ton. So stay tuned. And I welcome any feedback or suggestions too, because we're trying to figure out even how to keep folks from coming, come skate and maybe go grab dinner. We see some of that, but we want to increase that traffic even more so. Any other questions on that? Yeah.
How do you manage the skating rink? Is it rental skates? Is it like how do you?
So we have a shed and a company that we contract. The lion's share of the investment is the university, both for our students and as a public university and kind of our commitment to the community. We did look for sponsorships and got, again, this year around $35,000 of external partners. We're looking to increase that number. The city puts in about $40,000. So we work all together. We staff it through the university right now. That's been the easiest way to manage it. And really just take that ownership to, because we recognize, and we have a president who recognizes, we're a large public R1 university in the backyard. This is small town Kent with a big heart and big dreams, and we do awesome stuff together. We should be able to invest and support, which is one of the other things we do. We invest $10,000 annually in a university into Main Street Kent because this is the type of, again, it's a win-win. So, it's an easy sell for me when I take it to my leadership, and we give equal parts to the chamber too, because these are two things that we recognize keep the vitality of what downtown Kent is and that connection to the university. So yes, the university manages most of it, but it's a partnership with the city. The city's facility director does just as much with decorating, electricity, so it really is a partnership. So the last two things, so I don't want to take too much of my time away. Pride Week, which I think was shared probably earlier, is a partnership with our LGBTQ Center. And then we also have been able to do some neat things. The board members, some of which were in our Kent State employees, really just saw an opportunity to connect our flash card, our dining dollars, the student meal plans to support downtown businesses. To be very transparent, that was a contentious situation over the years, and the university, we really kind of made some big missteps and had lost some trust that we needed to really work on, which we've been doing the past 30 years. One of the things we did is take our food service internal. We had an external partner that wasn't best for us or aligned with our values. And because of that, we've been able to dedicate $100 for each student's meal plan to Downtown Dollars, which also invests heavily in the community. We've invited food trucks of local communities with the emphasis on Kent every Wednesday, and we're also looking to expand some of those things. We're in the end of year 1 of the Downtown Dollars. So just some of the different ways we partner. Main Street Kent really was an impetus for that because their board members saw the opportunity there. So any questions I can answer or anything else that you'd like to hear? Yeah.
I know you said $1,000 as a grant. Do you have an idea of, and you can think of it later, how much Penn State is investing in Penn? Can you put a dollar amount on that?
I mean, I think if you looked at our investment in our in the community partnerships through our like Main Street Kent Chamber, the ice skating rink, other things that we do. Like we partner closely there's a big street project going on, and our government relations person is invested to help advocate for the city. I would say well over $1 million if you factor in time and effort and all the different pieces.
And do you think that you have something quantifiable at your end that you talk about in Penn State leadership?
Yes. So Heather and Leslie do a fantastic job with their annual reports. I don't know if you've seen it, but it is really exceptional. It makes my job easy, honestly, because I provide the report that shows the return on investment, which is very clear. But we also see it because we have families who say they choose Kent State because of Kent. They visit downtown, they fall in love. And this is the kind of place they want to see their students go. They feel connected, they feel the sense of community. We also see it from businesses, and in fact, on what I have here, statements that businesses said, like Gwen Rosenberg, who's also a councilwoman, said the Kent card was so much fun. Customers were excited to have the card, pick up something they might not have otherwise purchased. We saw customers and welcome back a lot of folks who hadn't been in since the pandemic. There's another local business who said this was their lifeline during the pandemic. When I share that back to our leadership, it makes it an easy sell. Anything else? Well, I brought you goodies up here, so you can take a piece of Kent back with you. So these are little phone things, and if you're interested, they're up here. And I'll leave some business cards too, but again, glad you're here at Kent State and Kent today, and enjoy. Thank you.
Hello, I am Bridget Susel. I am the Community Development Director for the City of Kent. I report directly to the City Manager. I think he was here for a welcome. Did he go over his time, as he usually does, probably? Dave's chatty. So I am actually Dave's longest standing employee. So the downtown redevelopment began with Dave's leadership, partnered with the former President Lefton of Kent State, and I was brought in to work on the private investment. We always joke that had we known how hard it was going to be, we wouldn't have done it, but we're kidding, of course. Kent was a dying town. If you had been to our downtown prior to 2011, we had closed bars, we had vacant properties, and we had businesses that weren't wanting to stay. Dave, to his credit and his leadership, recognized that we needed to turn things around. So he invested his time and efforts into convincing the university that having a thriving downtown was as important as the university. And as a mother of 2 kids that were near to college age, he's right. Because when we went to college visits, we wanted to see the town, right? They all compared themselves to Ann Arbor. My kids wanted to go there because of the great town and the blend in. They ended up at Ohio State, though, I will say. But that town gown tie mattered. And there were some challenges prior to those relationships before Dave and President Lefton were here. But through that process, we partnered with no less than 12 different entities and over 20 funding sources to invest $150 million in the downtown. And that all was driven through the community development department. So when we got through the bricks and mortar, we realized, great, we have a thriving downtown. We just reinvested. We had a private business owner, developer, who, as his retirement project, furthered that development by another $40 million. So with this great rebuild downtown, we needed to work on developing those soft tissues. That's what Dave likes to call it. That's our Main Street, and that's our businesses. That also falls under community development. For those of you who don't know, my kids don't. My kids just know I got Barrio here, which I had nothing to do with Barrio, by the way, coming. They chose on their own. But we deal with anything private. So we basically straddle that public sector world and private, and it's a challenging place because there are certain regulations that can apply and others that don't. So you have to work to facilitate those relationships within the confines of those two worlds. So one of the activities that we began working with back in 2011 was the development and support of Main Street Kent. It was under a different director at that time who was only in that role for about a year, not even of when I started in this, and then we moved to Heather. Through that process, I can tell you Main Street grew and so did the city. We realized that providing events, drawing people to downtown was going to make sure that our downtown was thriving. So through that partnership, we have now established, quite honestly, I rely on them a lot. We started, when I started in 2011 in this role, I had 9 staff, I now have 10. So I've had 1 person added, but I've had more than a dozen programs and projects added to the community development portfolio of activities. We spin a lot of plates. So because I am limited on staff, but have no limit on how much we want to foster growth and development in our downtown, I partner with Main Street. Leslie and Heather never say no, which is great. And I'm gonna give 3 examples, but I can tell you there are many that are not formalized in what I'm describing. The city does fund fund Main Street Kent annually. We usually do that through a contractual agreement that allows for 2 years and then a 3rd-year renewal. We've had that in place for several years now, and I anticipate that continuing because they are one of the reasons why our small businesses are doing so well, and many survived through the pandemic. One of the most important partnerships that we have with them, I feel, is their ability and willingness to take on anything that supports the downtown. Events, helping people learn to do events. We had a DORA that was not an idea that was embraced by many of our elected officials until COVID. At that point, our biggest fear was that the small businesses that many were barely hanging on would not be able to sustain themselves without us providing some way where they could provide carryout and we could still provide that outside open space area. So we did as an interim a DORA. Basically the downtown outside recreational area was small at first. It included probably about 4 or 5 blocks. It was such a big hit that we expanded it a year later and increased the hours. So the DORA is administered in terms of dealing with the businesses through Main Street Kent. They gladly took it on. They do everything from talking to the businesses, they design the signage, they even helped me design the signage we needed for the tables with regards to how we could ensure social spacing. So Main Street Kent will work so hard with us to ensure its success that now it has become permanent. It is not a pilot. We will, in fact, I don't anticipate it ever leaving. One of our council people jokes it's the best thing the city ever did, which may not be too wrong. We also partner with Main Street Kent on a zoning requirement. So one of the more boring aspects, although I like it, I deal with is zoning and land use and businesses. And one of the push points that we were running into was public art. So our downtown's very eclectic. If you walk down there, we have Joe Walsh on one wall, we've got obscure paintings on another. Well, we also have an architectural review board and design guidelines that didn't actually complement that desire for that eclectic public art. The determination of public art, its context and its look was being run through the architectural review board because of the way our zoning code was written. The development staff, which is myself and 3 other people, redid our entire zoning code. 280 pages during our pandemic was our activity. And one of the things that I had really wanted to do was pull public art out, right? Make that exterior facade change separate and distinct from whether your windows meet the guidelines. So through the zoning code and council's approval, we were able to establish basically a public art advisory through Main Street Kent. So now when someone comes to the city with a public art process, the city refers them to Main Street Kent. They don't go through our architectural review board. We ensure that it doesn't include a logo or a name. Once you put a logo or a name in it, you've made a sign, and then you're back under the zoning code requirements for sign regulations. But the public art was put under a committee established by Main Street Kent. And we've had several successful projects come through that. And I can tell you that the issues and challenges we had with an artist being told to change a color of their artwork by an architectural review board, it's not something I miss. I don't miss that at all. So it has been a success, and because of it, I think that we will see an expansion of public art because we've made the process inviting and recognize the importance that we have putting that forward through our downtown. Another project that Leslie and Heather have worked on is, we call it our outdoor seating area. It's kind of runs in tandem along with Fedora, but as part of COVID, a pilot project, we closed Franklin. That's the brick street where Ray's is. If you haven't gone to Ray's, you need to go to Ray's. Actually, all of us. I just took somebody to Taco Towns for the first time, and they're like, oh my God, and they were already talking, they want to come back. So any of our businesses down there you want to see, but those two are some of our older ones. We blocked that street off between Main Street and Erie when we put up tables. Again, it was done for COVID, so people could get carry out and their Dora drink and sit outside during the pandemic. It was such a huge hit that after the pilot project, we actually have made it permanent. Again, it will only go away if council rescinds the ordinance that went through last year. Through that process, Main Street Kent works it for me. So I supply we make sure the supply cabinet's filled, but they hire workers to work those busy nights of Friday and Saturday to clean up the trash and to make sure that the tables can be reused and people aren't leaving garbage out. And we had some growing pains for that because they're high school kids, not always reliable. We had issues with people wanting to break in to see what we had in our cabinet. So we've worked through all of those, and we actually I just forwarded our 3rd year contract for that, and Main Street will be staffing that for the period first Saturday in May through that first Saturday in October. I could talk a lot, but I'm going to open this up to questions at this point. But I will tell you, the partnership the city has with the university and Main Street is critical to the success of our economy here in the city of Kent and why people view Kent now as a destination. He was first and I'll get to you. Yes?
Is the Main Street Kent budget item out of the community development department? Is that a line item in your budget
Yes.
that you submit?
Yes, it is. So of those programs I mentioned, the dozen programs, those are all individual funds. I actually have a dedicated fund for Main Street Kent that is budgeted and approved annually when our budget is approved for the entire city. The current contract's $70,000 a year. Yes.
You mentioned on public art that if it had a name or a logo, it becomes a sign.
I'm sorry?
You mentioned when talking about public art that if it had a name or logo, it becomes a sign.
Yes.
Does that include having the artist's name?
No, not the artist's name, but the Joe Walsh is probably my best example, because
Also-
when that went up, if they wanted to put Gibson on the guitar, it became an ad.
Okay.
So you can do the mural of Joe Walsh, just don't put that it's a Gibson. Anybody that's a Joe Walsh fan will know what brand it is without it having to be on there.
Yeah.
So it's that thin line we walk.
If you have a grant given to you to put up a mural, like we just got one from Dominion to do a mural.
Okay.
Would putting their logo on there also turn it back to the sign?
Well, let me clarify. So signs are regulated typically by a community through their zoning code. So the regulatory requirements associated with signs, as I'm referring to, is under the Kent Codified Ordinances. It's under the zoning code that the Community Development Department administers. In the community you're at, they may not call that a sign, they may just call it public art. We tend to, the community development department, tends to get sued a lot because of that private sector side. So we weigh every word, and we know, we've been sued over signs. So we know that a logo or a trademark cannot be included in a public art mural to remove that requirement that it meet those zoning code regulations. So I would suggest you, check with your community, it's either called the community development department, sometimes it's called the planning department, but whatever division administers the zoning code, before you put it up, because you don't want to get it on the wall and then find out that you're in violation of the zoning code.
Our community has a lot of commissions, they don't want another commission, they don't want a public art commission. How did you get the city to agree to let the Main Street manage that policy?
I can sympathize, just under community development, I have 11 boards and commissions, so I'm with you. It was literally we had a couple of instances where that conflict between the administration of the Architectural Review Board, guidelines by that board, and the artist came to fruition, and it became very obvious that the one could not really manage the other. Public art is very different than a facade change. So when we were taking the zoning code update through, I highlighted one of those challenges and a request to council that it be separated, and that if Main Street Kent, as part of their nonprofit structure, were to have its own committee, basically with people that are qualified to make those decisions. Because somebody speaking on architectural design is not the same as somebody that advises on art. They're very different. So council agreed, because they had heard some of those conflicts and some of those issues that we had had between artists and the Architectural Review Board, including one that a business had tried to do a mural and had to return to the Architectural Review Board 3 times. So oftentimes laws change in reaction to a conflict that comes to fruition, and that's exactly what happened here. And it has worked very well. So the code was adopted in June of 2021, and I think we've had at least three public arts that have gone through Main Street Kent, all of them approved and all of them aesthetically pleasing and have resulted in no complaints.
So qualifications is the key.
Yes, I would suggest if you have, we are fortunate, right? We have the university, so they can pull from some of those departments, but that doesn't mean you don't have business owners. But definitely differentiate between getting an architect and someone that knows art. Yes.
Or you can talk to Leslie about the composition of the kind of work, because I think that's the key, the
Yes.
right people are at that table, not me.
Yeah. And our zoning code, regulatory wise, requires that public art go through Main Street Kent, so it's not a maybe. It's not, I did not want. I didn't want that people to be like, well, do I really have to? If we, the community development department, define something that's submitted as public art, we are statutorily required to refer it to Main Street. So it makes it a very legitimized process to ensure that nobody's just painting something without going through the process.
So ordinance code.
Yes, and Leslie has that copy, I mean, I have it too, but she could share with you the composition of the board, the activities, the 3 projects they've already approved, and that would include the zoning code 1106 section that deals with public art.
I just wanted to sing your praises, because as someone that graduated from Penn in 2011, I got to see a lot of the blueprints in the hospitality program. It was really cool to be a student to see all those coming, like, as I graduated. But, like, I, hung out with Robin Hood and all those, like, kind of great places. But my sister graduated 7 years later, so her experience, I really bookwormed myself in college, so I was on campus a lot. But I want to sing praises of everybody that it does make such an impact on a student to kind of go outside of the campus and have that really, like, esplanade.
Yes.
And it's such a connector.
Yes.
I mean, it's really amazing what this city has in comparison with the university, something that, I loved my time at Kent, but I think seeing it now, it's such an amazing.
You have the real before and after.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that. When I show people pictures, they literally cannot believe what was there. And that connectivity between campus and downtown was critical to Dave, our city manager, and to Lester, the president. We were meeting weekly, literally weekly with the university to figure it out. We actually even had to get ODOT, our city engineer had to get ODOT. We had rail, like a guardrail, blocking the end of Erie Street that was leading into that beautiful Esplanade you see now. Kent State had also had, through the prior vice president for facilities and architecture, had already bought up properties in and around that Esplanade, and they own 26 of them, which we were able to take down and put in that green space. And that, if I showed you pictures, I do have them before and after, if anybody wants to see that PowerPoint, just for curiosity. It even startles me, and I lived it, like I forget, you know, I'll like see it. I just took somebody downtown who hadn't been here since 2009, and they're like, wasn't this McNasty's? I'm like, yeah, it was. Now it's not. So, yeah, it was a process, but we are very proud of it, but it definitely was a lot of work.
Yes, you did a great job.
Anyone else? All right, thanks. My contact information if you have any follow-up questions on the city side. Thanks. Thanks.
My name's Tom Hatch, and I am a member of the board of Kent Historical Society, former member of Main Street Kent's board, and a current volunteer in on the design committee. My compatriot here is Mark Pruis. Mark is an architect, an architecture student from Kent State, and a number of years ago, several years ago now, we collaborated to create this book called A Look at Our Past, Historic Facades of Kent, Ohio. I'm going to pass it out. I've only got 4 copies. Maybe you could flip through and take a look and see what you think of it. I would like these copies back if you had a chance. But this project came out of the early days of the redevelopment of downtown Kent, as Bridget has described. This is another thing that came out of those times. As you know, both Kent Historical Society and Main Street Kent have a shared interest in historic preservation. And one of the things that we wanted to do back in those days was to encourage building owners to consider values and principles of historic preservation as they considered how they might change the facades of their buildings. And so together with Main Street Kent, Kent Historical Society, an architecture firm called DS Architecture, and the Kent State University, we collaborated to create a database of information and photographs about the architectural history of each of the prominent buildings in downtown Kent. My compatriot Mark Pruis was an architecture student at that time, and we were very fortunate to land Mark as an intern who basically did most of the work on it, to compile the information in this book. And he will talk a little bit about the process he used and how he was supported in that effort. But before I go on, I just want to correct one thing that Heather said before. She said, all of this doesn't happen just because of Leslie and me. Well, yes it does. These are the dynamic duo of Kent, Ohio. So let me just pass the mic over to Mark, and Mark can talk a little bit about how he, the process he used to create this information in this book. And when he's finished, I'm going to tell you a little bit about another project, which is essentially a continuation of what we started here. Mark Pruis.
As Tom said, my name is Mark. I will correct him on one thing. I am not an architect yet. I'm just in the field, working on my way towards it. Like he said, in my senior year of college, I got the lucky opportunity to work on this book. Well, back then it wasn't a book yet, and then it morphed into the book. Going on the history of the buildings of the city and the architectural styles. I wasn't sure that what this was going to be, so bear with me, so I'm winging it right now. Basically the process, that's where I should start. The process that I did really correlated between Main Street Kent, they got grants and stuff like that to help pay for it, excuse me. The Kent Historical Society, they helped me gather information, historical photos of the buildings. Along with the Historical Society, there are a number of community members that actually helped me along, provided me with information about buildings, businesses in those buildings, and then Sandmore maps. The Sandmore maps were a way to kind of tell when the building was built if there was no definitive date that I could find. So some dates are approximate, some dates are definitive. Then we just compiled it. Tom was being modest. He helped a lot with this process. He was the editor. He made sure that my writing made sense because I don't grammar well. So yeah, it was a lot of help from a lot of people. I've heard the book is doing well at the Kent Historical Society's store. I'm happy for that. Yeah, hopefully the copies make it to you so you can actually see it rather than me rambling. But yeah, I'll hand it back to Tom.
Perhaps you could add a little detail about the grants that we got from the state of Ohio and how you were actually paid. Do you have this information?
Not really. I don't think so.
We got a grant from an organization within the state of Ohio Department of Education, and they were interested. This is an organization that's interested in connecting students with real projects going on in communities. So they were able to fund. This is a perfect thing for them. So they were able to fund Mark's internship as he worked on this project. Originally, the project was designed to be a website. It was supposed to be a database of information on a website. When I saw what Mark had done, and I saw it pretty much when he was finished. My background is book publishing, and I like to turn things into books. So I basically said, this could be a book. And so we then proceeded to go in that direction, and it's been a very successful project for us. Now, historic preservation, this is one effort in our combined interest in historic preservation. There's another project that we are just becoming involved with through the Portage County Regional Planning Commission. Portage County Regional Planning did a really interesting website for the city of Ravenna, and you might want to go look at it because it's really something. It's this book on steroids, and you can. It includes not only downtown buildings but also residential areas within Ravenna. And you can, if you want to go see all the Queen Anne homes and do a walking tour in Ravenna, you could go on this website and put in those criteria, and it will give you a walking tour. So we have contracted with the Regional Planning Commission of Portage County to do this same project for Kent. And we have a lot of it done already because of Mark's work and the work that appears in this book. And we are lining up 5 or 6 interns for the summer to compile all this information just the way Mark did back when he was at Kent State. So this ongoing interest in historic preservation is something that Kent Historical Society and Main Street can share, and these are some of the ways that we address those issues. So any questions? If you're interested in the book and you'd like to get a copy, you can get it through the Kent Historical Society. It's kentohiohistory.org, kentohiohistory.org. If you Google Kent Historical Society, you will likely end up in the state of Washington. So kentohiohistory.org if you are interested in that. Any questions? Can you repeat that, please?
So like, what's some of the rules, that surround preserving the historical?
So the question is, what are some of the rules that surround historic preservation of buildings? There actually are not any codified rules about this issue in the city of Kent. Would you correct me if I'm wrong? Yeah.
I just had my coat on.
I knew she could correct.
Our design guidelines actually are codified, and so is the rules and responsibilities of the Architectural Review Board. So we have a current conflict in that our codified design guidelines that are an appendices to our zoning code are based on a designation of a historic district. The downtown does not have a historic district. So that conflict is being addressed right now. We are updating our guidelines, and then the guidelines will be presented to the Architectural Review Board and the Planning Commission, and subsequently to Council for authorization, either to have the guidelines not codified and the new ones complementary to certain things that will be regulated. So I just want to get that out there. That is actually something that has, during the downtown redevelopment, did create some conflicts and issues, because you have guidelines designed for a historic district, but the district was not designated and actually is called an overlay district, so those rules apply within the context of new development. So we had some challenges, but we're working through those. Thanks.
One of the challenges is explaining and educating the community that attention to historic preservation issues is going to be economically valuable to your community. I mean, I love this place that we are in today because of what the Tipton family did to create this. It's remarkable. This was a church, it was a factory, it was a place where they made laundry equipment for a long time. But look at what we've got today, and it's to the credit of the Tipton family and their vision. Anything else? Anything else? I make good here. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I know it's lunchtime.